Welcome to the Sleepwire Show. It's week 7 in the 2018 fantasy season, and week 6 is behind us. And for most of us, it's about the halfway point of the fantasy season. It's really flying by this year, and I think it's the pass-happy offense. Although this week, wow, there were some quarterbacks that really struggled. Kickers and defenses, if you play with kickers, they could have won you the week this week. So we're going to look at all these games. We're going to give you the best waiver wire targets, and we're going to tell you who we think you should trade for and who to sell, just like we do every Monday. And let's jump right into the show. I got a lot of special stuff. Today with me on the show, we got the break from the grind, big shots. Jason and George. Nobody on the third mic. Jason, George, I listened to your show last week. It's really good. Excellent episode of Break from the Grind. If anybody wants to get a listen to that, go to your podcast app and download Break from the Grind. It was good. You got any thing coming out this coming week?
Yeah, so Wednesday we have a episode with a guy named Keto Corey. He is a keto life coach. He is in a band called Atticane, and they've toured with some pretty big names. They kick ass. And he also does some fantasy football, so we have him on for about an hour. He answers 20 random questions. He laughs at George a bit, so it's a good show.
If you're named Keto, I don't think you have many other career choices. Like, you have to be in diet, right?
Well, his real name is Corey Godwin, but Jason calls him Keto Corey because that's his Twitter handle.
Oh, okay, cool. So check that out. When's that coming out? Wednesday, you said?
It'll be out Wednesday morning.
Awesome. All right, I want to take a little musical break. You guys both said you hadn't heard the San Diego Superchargers fight song. I found this a couple days ago. It is phenomenal. Let's just listen to a little bit. I guess we gotta change the words. Los Angeles. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't have the same ring.
You know what, though? Like, when I hear that song, for some reason I do think of Melvin Gordon.
Right? It's his running style. It's that disco roller rink running style of his. Boy, did they look good this week. We're gonna get to them. We're going to get to Melvin Gordon and his amazing abilities. Let's talk about a little bit of news real quick before we jump into the games, though. Le'Veon Bell still hasn't reported to the Steelers camps. All kind of like differing news coming out. They expect him, they don't expect him, they don't know what to expect. They have no idea what's going on. This isn't really giving me a lot of confidence that Bell's going to play in Week 8 because the Steelers are on bye this week along with the Packers, the Raiders, and the Seahawks. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, if you're a James Conner owner, hold on to him. Because that dude played out of his mind this week. And he may play the rest of the season. You never know. Bucks fired Mike Smith.
And cue the applause.
Yeah, here it is. The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. When your defense is that terrible, it makes you wonder back in 2017 if they regret drafting O.J. Howard and passing up over T.J. Watt.
Well, we can get into this during the Bucks segment for their game, but I don't know if it automatically improves your defense, but...
Oh, it doesn't for sure. I mean, you replaced him with a guy that worked right under him. It's not like they're going to change schemes in the middle of the season. So what generally happens when you change coaches like this, you might see a 1-week uptick. And look, with Baker Mayfield kind of tweaking his ankle, right? Like, you may see a little bit of a better defense this week from the Bucks, maybe. But I don't, long term for the rest of the season, they're just bad. So until they get a coach in there that has a better scheme or a better idea of what to do with the players, just like every third down was 3rd and long for the Falcons, and we call it 3rd and 1st because they just got it over and over and over again.
So it's more than just coaching. They need personnel changes as well.
Well, their secondary is a bunch of rookies, and as much as you think they might have some talent, they're not ready to step in and be the only guys playing. And as bad as Chris Conte kind of got roughed up, he was at least a little bit of a he was a little bit of a veteran presence in the back to help the rookies get set, know who they're going to be covering, the kind of stuff that you'd have a veteran do. Now they have nobody. So, yeah, I mean, him retiring at halftime is funny, but it also hurt.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a couple of teams, including the Falcons and the Bucs, that we're going to talk about. The Falcons are one of the teams that I think are on the up. And the first game of the week was the Eagles and Giants. This is a Eagles team that I think had a pretty slow beginning. After the halftime, though, they seemed to make the proper adjustments, and they played really well. It could have been part of the fact that Jason Peters left the game because the O-line suddenly looked better with a guy whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Vital.
Yeah, okay.
Vitati? I don't know. Yeah, that's like alphabet soup.
Halapolivati Vitai. Okay, well, anyways, they looked a lot better in the second half. And I think that bodes really well for the Eagles because they seem to be kind of hitting their stride a little bit. Jeffrey, I think people had some trepidation maybe in starting him this week. Some people were saying the matchup wasn't good. Some people were saying because of, his down game last week. I think he's a guy you got to start every week. He's a week winner when he goes off, and he's been seeing consistent targets. But the big story is the Clement and Smallwood split. What did you guys take away from the Clement and Smallwood split? Because it looks like it's going to be a split for at least the foreseeable future.
Well, so if I'm looking at it and you listen to the news, they had Clement on a snap count. But when you watch it, Clement's clearly the better runner. Yeah,
I agree with Jason's assessment. Clement looked a lot better than Smallwood. They said he was on a snap count. I don't think he was really on a snap count. I think I believe it was Smallwood who fumbled the ball, and just after that, it just seemed like every time it was going to Clement.
Yeah, I think Clement is more of they're both relatively short in terms of stature. Clement's a bit heavier at 220. I think he's more of a power back. And I don't know if I've ever seen really good vision from Smallwood. The hype was there. I know a lot of people thought he was the guy with the injury to Clement. But I think I'd rather own Clement and start Clement on a week-to-week basis over Smallwood. If I had both or if I had one or the other, I think I'd go Clement on this one. Beckham Jr., wow. Threw a little fit, left the field before halftime when his team was still on the field, and poor game from him. Also, Sterling Shepard, poor game from him. Still seeing a lot of targets, though. I guess, what do you guys make of this Giants team? I mean, the problem to me seems to be Eli Manning. Just doesn't look good, not playing well.
Well, according to Odell, that is exactly what the problem is.
Well, and we saw it this year. Or this week, I should say. So what are you going to do if your Giants skill players, your Giants wide receivers, and you got Evan Ingram maybe coming back this week too? Is he automatically start, or are you going to wait and see?
I'd probably start him because Ingram could be a nice check down. If I'm looking at it, maybe Barkley takes a receiving hit because Ingram's there as a check down instead of just throwing it to Barkley over and over and over again.
I'm gonna say this. Looking at their next coming game, they play the Falcons. So absolutely, I'm starting Shepard and I'm starting Ingram.
Yeah.
I also think that offensive line does nobody any favors.
No.
Eli's at the point where he's basically a statue back there. He can't even get out of his own way. And then when you have an offensive line that's that bad, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
Yeah, and the point that you made, George, about them playing the Falcons next week, I hadn't even really considered that. I was thinking, Ingram is on the waivers in one of my leagues. I got a waiver claim in for him already, hopefully this week. But I wasn't thinking about starting him. I was thinking about keeping him on the roster, but they hadn't been using him a lot previously. He was getting some garbage time work, but he wasn't part of the full game plan. But now that you're talking about the Falcons, I'm kind of changing my mind.
It's the Giants. It's all garbage time work.
It's true.
Well, I was saying in the offseason with regards to Ingram, we've seen him at his absolute best last year.
Yeah.
He was the only target that they had on the team. He wasn't going to produce another season like he did last year. At least not right away. Maybe long-term he will be. But tight ends typically take 3 to 4 years before you get a return on investment. Perfect example is what's his name? Detroit let go, Ebron. He's flourishing right now in Indianapolis. It's his 4th year.
Yeah.
They take time. Ingram last year, he had no no Odell Beckham Jr., no Shepard. Barkley wasn't back there. Everything was going to him. It's not that case this year. It's totally different.
Aguilar targets gone down since 3 weeks ago. He had 12. Past 2 weeks, 4 and 5. Little concerning there, but I think you kind of had to expect that with Alshon coming back, getting healthy. So is Aguilar somebody you guys are still holding on to, though?
I'm not, no.
No.
No? Okay. I might in a deep league hang on to him just because I think this offense is finally getting it together. I don't know if I'd start him every week, though. The Falcons and the Buccaneers. Again, congratulations, Jason. Mike Smith out of town. This game, well, let's see. The last play of the game was crazy. I don't know what happened there. It seemed like mistakes. Just makes me think Tampa's just a stupid team. What do you think, Jason?
I love that play.
I did too. I texted Jason. I'm like, that almost worked.
It almost worked. So I think what happened there is Jameis Winston got a little bit too far downfield because if I'm looking at that play, if you watch it like in slow-mo, he is wide open on the sideline. And if Jameis doesn't take the extra 2 yards where he's getting hit when he throws, if you throw it to Jackson a yard sooner, he's wide open, and there's nobody along the sideline.
Yeah, he's got a clear path right into the end zone. It was a crazy play, but it was so crazy it actually would have worked if Jackson could have fielded that ball clean.
Yeah, he still almost caught it. But I think looking at it, I feel like the play was designed to go right from Winston to Jackson, and I think either they came up on him a little faster than he expected, or he tried to get a little too greedy going downfield. Or maybe he looked over and Jackson was a little too far downfield, so he couldn't throw it back to him. But
I'm going to say that he got a little too greedy because I've always questioned his judgment.
But that play just about worked. I actually really liked the idea of that play versus trying to throw it up into the end zone on the last second.
And it resulted in a pretty good statistical day for Winston. I think a lot of that had to do with just the game itself. I mean, George, you mentioned it last week a couple of times. You want as many pieces of that game as you could because you knew it was going to be a shootout. Probably a little concerned about Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson. Not great PPR days and certainly not good standard days for either of those guys. Chris Godwin really benefited, and Peyton Barber showed up as well. So is Peyton Barber the ad from anything on this week? I mean, I don't know if he's still owned in many leagues.
If you don't own him, you should own him. I mean, he's the starting running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. They're going to feed him the ball. He's not going to get beat out anytime soon by Ronald Jones. I know they were feeding Ronald Jones the game before, but Peyton Barber just looks a lot better. His yards per carry is better. He can catch the ball better. He does a lot of things that Ronald Jones just can't do. He's the better of the two running backs at this moment in their careers.
Well, so because their running back depth is so bad, I guess somebody has to own Peyton Barber. But I think again this boils down to them playing the Falcons and the Falcons just being so bad on defense, just like the Bucs. And as many injuries as they have, that's why Peyton Barber looked halfway competent. But if you go back over the last several games, he has not looked great. So you own him because he's the starter of a team, but you're not happy about it. You barely ever play him.
Yeah, I'm not looking to play him the next couple of weeks. They got a couple of good run defenses coming up, and they're on the road for 2 of the next 4. I was excited to see Brackett in the end zone. He's been consistently getting in the end zone. O.J. Howard saw more work, though. And I guess we told you about Ito Smith. You have to have Ito Smith on your team now because Freeman's already been ruled out for the Falcons this coming week 7. So it's the Tevin Coleman show with Ito Smith, and he's kind of looking better and better. He got one more rush than Tevin Coleman. Didn't do much with it, though. Do you think Ito Smith and Tevin Coleman see some progress against the Giants this next week?
So listen, I think the Giants are a little harder to throw against than the Bucs are. I mean, obviously, because the Bucs are giving up 400 yards per game 400 plus yards per game in the air. So I have to assume that they're going to have a little more attempts on the ground with the Giants.
The Buccaneers also, I don't think they can't really defend the tight end position very well. The same thing with the Vikings. So that's something to look for your tight end matchups if you're streaming. Njoku, Ozma, they might see good weeks coming up against the Bucs. Maybe even Greg Olsen when they face the Panthers, and Vernon Davis when they play the Redskins because Jordan Reed isn't doing much. Let's move on to the Chargers and the Browns. So, results from Mayfield, they say he's going to be able to play this week. Say he's going to be okay. The defense for Cleveland didn't have an answer to the outside toss. They had a lot of big runs to the edge. Melvin Gordon just feasted on them. 3 touchdowns from those kind of outside toss plays. So I think part of that was the Browns missing their linebacker, Joe Schobert. But I think part of it also was the fact they just got out to such a fast lead. The Browns didn't have any answers, and Mayfield didn't look well after he got a little banged up. Damian Ratley, though, he was the guy that benefited the most in the passing game. We kind of mentioned him last week a little bit, in Landry and Callaway just not catching the ball very good. You guys throwing a waiver claim in for Damian Ratley in a deep league, maybe?
Yeah, in a deep league, I would throw a claim in for him. I'm not going to start him. But if he goes out and he puts up another stat line like that, then I consider it.
Well, and listen, so Damian Ratley, and we haven't talked about Njoku yet, but just jumping into Njoku while we're here, the Browns' next 4 games are the Bucs, the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Falcons. That is a who's who of get the wide receiver / tight end the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
So, listen, I'd be panicking if I was a Landry owner, which I am, except I'm looking at the Bucs, the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Falcons. If there's ever a chance to get right, it's over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. I know people Hoos was saying trade Landry. I don't think I could at this point. With that schedule coming up, he's such a good player. I think he can turn it around. I don't know if I didn't get to see a lot of this game. I don't know if a lot of the drops from him and Callaway were their fault or they were Baker being an inaccurate rookie.
I think it was a lot of both.
Okay.
I mean, so from what I've heard about the game, because I didn't get to see much of the Cleveland game here in Florida, but from what I hear, it was a lot of errant passes, and people seem to want to say it's because of his injury. But over the last several weeks, we've also seen that he hasn't been as accurate as everybody expected him to be out of college.
Tyrell Williams is going to be the talk of the town for the Chargers and for waiver wire targets this week. 2 big receptions on the one drive, but only 3 catches overall for the whole game. So again, it's like we talked about this last week. Tyrell versus Mike, the battle of the Williamses. It's hard to trust a start for either of them because you never know what's going to happen. But I guess if you had to lean towards Tyrell, maybe now is the time. Because he has done this before where he's put together a string of 2 or 3 good games and then he disappears again. So maybe he's got one more in him.
I think so. He's the veteran of the 2. Mike Williams, this is essentially his rookie year. He sat out all last year, so he's going to be up and down. I still think Tyrell Williams is the better of the 2 Williams. But going back to your point of not being able to trust him, yeah, you can't really trust either one. One could easily go off like Tyrell did. We've seen it earlier in the year where Mike went off. And I hate to call for an injury, but you're not going to get any clarity unless one of those 2 guys gets hurt.
I think Tyrell Williams, in terms of waiver ads, if you got a spot for him, he might be in that same breath as an Albert Wilson, where you grab him because of the big week, and then maybe you try to package him in a trade, and you take advantage of that upside or that high sell high kind of thing, because one of those guys, somebody might not look at game, not look at history, and think, oh man, this guy's emerging as a superstar. Might not be the case.
Go Chargers, go!
Yeah, Chargers are looking good, man. Thank you, Arnold. I really like this team coming up, man. They got a couple of pretty good matchups: the Titans, the Seahawks, the Raiders, and the Broncos. I think this team continues to improve, so good things in the future for the Chargers. Speaking of the Seahawks and the Raiders, I don't know what happened in this game. Was Seattle good, or were they just less bad than Oakland?
Seattle was
Well, they were playing the Raiders. That's what happened with this game. The Raiders are just a bad team.
So they were
They're
less bad.
They got bad personnel. They're just a bad team.
So the Seahawks were just less bad, not good.
Yes.
All right.
I mean, Carr got sacked 6 times in this game.
Yeah.
This is not the Legion of Boom. This is not that. This is not your dad's Seattle defense. Okay.
Well, and listen, Wilson had a good air quotes game at 222 yards. Now he got 3 touchdowns, so that's better than most weeks. But it's not like he's out there chucking it around for 350, 400 yards. Still not running.
Yeah, he's not running. What's going on with that? What's up with that?
Well, they're trying to keep him from getting hurt, like Deshaun Watson, I guess.
Yeah.
Baldwin looked okay. Good PPR day. Is he back?
I think he's back.
I don't know if he's back per se, just because I look at they were playing the Raiders. I mean, it's easy to go out and look good when you're playing the Raiders. So I don't want to say he's back to Doug Baldwin. I'm really happy to see something productive from him going into a bye. If I'm the Doug Baldwin owner and I am in a league, that has me feeling optimistic about him. If he would have went out and put up another stinker going into a bye, I wouldn't have felt very good about that.
Well, so what I can tell you is going back to the week before where he was 1 for 1, there were multiple times where he was wide open and he just got missed. Like, not targeted, they just didn't see him on the field. So if Wilson starts targeting him and starts seeing him again, then I think he's back, because I think he played better than the 1 for 1 the week before, and he obviously played better this week than he did the last week.
Yeah, got to use that bye to heal up, so that'll be good. This, Raiders also want to bye this week, so hopefully their offensive line can get a little bit healthier. But for this game, it was needed check down. Better call Jalen Richard. 7 catches for 48 yards. We talked about him last week as being a PPR option, and he didn't disappoint. So he got you 11 points in a PPR. Is my math good? Yeah, my math is good. But they didn't push the ball downfield. So Jared Cook hurt, Martavius Bryant hurt, Seth Roberts, whatever, and Marshawn Lynch. That whole team just kind of stunk this week. And it was surprising to me because this was the London game. And the Raiders have been to London before. Usually you see teams that haven't been to London kind of struggle with the time shift and the fact that they're in another country and they go out with their families and explore. And it's like Jaguars' home field, London is. But the Raiders have been there before. Jaguars almost always win in London. It's crazy. But the Raiders have been there before, and they didn't play well this game. So it was sad. It was sad. But let's see. They come back against the Lions, which could be a good game for their skilled players. Then they got a couple of tough matchups coming up, so we'll see how they get healthy.
We're going to breeze over the Cooper trade talks.
I mean, do you care? Amari Cooper, they're looking to trade him maybe for a first rounder. Will they get a first rounder for that pile of garbage?
No.
I don't think they'll get anything better than a 4th for him.
Yeah, so the trade talk started and ended when they started talking about a first.
Yep.
Yeah, and he got knocked out of the game, too, so he didn't even really get to sell himself.
Yeah, he could. So he's somebody that when we do our blitz, we recommend never, ever starting Amari Cooper. And I hope that people listen to us this week because he literally went out and put up nothing for you.
I'm trying to think of a team where he might land, where he might have some fantasy value. It's just too hard to even figure out right now. Like, he needs to go back to catch school and just practice.
I would like to see him on the Colts. I think that would be a good fit because he's not going to be the number 1 there. That's going to be T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah. Well, if he's
I don't think Amari Cooper's a true number 1 wide receiver.
No. Could he go back to college? Could he just audit some classes?
He might have a year of eligibility left.
I was going to say, I'm not sure what the eligibility rules are, but I'm pretty sure since he's already been paid, he may need to go to Canada.
All right, George, your Dolphins. People were looking forward all week to Brady versus Mahomes, but they have maybe, possibly, and very likely overlooked a quarterback battle of the century. Osweiler versus Trubisky.
Doesn't get any more heavyweight than that.
I was glued to my television on this one.
I'm proud of my Dolphins, man. That's the first quality win we've had all year. So this is our 4th win, but this is the first quality win of the year for us.
They gutted it out, didn't they? They really gutted it out.
Yeah.
I think the Bears' defense ran out of energy, though.
They may have. Listen, They haven't allowed a rushing touchdown all year, the Bears defense, and that streak still stands. That no Miami Dolphins running back ran one in. Two left hands, Kenyon Drake probably could have, but he's got two left hands and he's not very good, and he fumbled on the goal line. Surprisingly, that didn't cost us the game in overtime. This was a fun game to watch.
Well, and speaking of the Chicago defense, they say that Khalil Mack had a rolled ankle somewhere in the second half and then just kept playing on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, pretty much anybody else would have come out. So maybe that helped the Dolphins a little bit, but
yeah, I don't know if I'm a Bear, and I'm a Bears defense owner in one league, and it hurt me pretty bad because I was getting used to their pretty good defense score. But I'm not dropping them or anything. They're still a very talented unit. The guys that people are going to grab on the waiver wire, obviously Albert Wilson, 6 for 9, 155, 2 touchdowns. But you take out those 2 big scores, he was 4 for 37. So a little bit of fool's gold there. But again, that's a guy maybe you add if you have space and then package him up in a trade, because I don't think he's going to do that again. Osweiler, huge day. I mean, it's so good to see this guy back on the field, lighten up defenses. Wow. But let's talk about the running backs for Chicago. The Jordan Howard owners are probably panicking right now. What do you do with them?
As a guy who owns Jordan Howard in multiple leagues, I am trying to trade him. I thought coming in he would be a solid RB2 for me. As long as Cohen's back there, he's not an RB2. Jason said it best to me yesterday when we were talking about this game. He goes forward and falls down. The Bears look so much more electric on offense with Tariq Cohen when he has the ball in his hands versus Howard.
Yeah, that offense just is faster when Tariq Cohen's on the field, and the coaches are starting to notice.
What are you looking to get? What are you looking to get for Howard, though?
I'm hoping off name value I can get something for him. So I've been reaching out to a couple people trying to add him as a package with him and another running back for a Fournette or a Dalvin Cook, Chris Thompson who's injured. I'm reaching out for those, using him as a piece off of one of those running backs who are injured, who I know will have a definite role when they come back.
I'm looking at the rest of this team, the rest of this game. Mitch Trubisky turned in a pretty decent performance.
I mean, in 2-quarterback league, he's definitely usable. And we had mentioned Taylor Gabriel a couple weeks ago before the bye as being a target magnet and also a speedster. He had a great game, caught all of his targets, 5 for 5 for 110. So
he's had 2 consecutive games where he's gone over 100 yards.
Yeah, and like you said, when that offense looks faster, which he is part of the speed of that offense, they play better.
They design plays, and I don't mean to cut you off, Jason. I know you want to get something in. They actually design plays specifically for Taylor Gabriel in that offense. So it's not a mirage. They like him, and they want to use him for his speed.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. So 2 games of over 100 yards the last 2 weeks, or the last 2 times they've played because they had to bye the last week. But the week before that, even though he didn't have a big game, they targeted him, I think, double-digit times. So they are looking to get him the ball. Yeah. So it's not something where it's just a 1-time or a 2-time fluke. It looks like with Tariq Cohen, they are trying to speed up that offense a little bit and maybe open it up.
Yeah, he makes a great daily play. He makes a great waiver ad if he's still out there as like a flex play in a PPR league. It's along the likes of a Godwin or something like that. And Cohen, if he's not picked up, I would get him. He's not always going to have great big games like this. He did have a fumble as well, but the upside is there. And I dropped Derrick Henry for him in a league, and I am so happy I did because Derrick Henry let me down again. From the waivers, though, haha, see ya, bye, no more of that. Done with him. Thank you, Tariq Cohen. Oh, the Vikings and the Cardinals. So Minnesota looked bad in the first half of this game. They put it together in the second half, and Cousins went out and had an okay game, but that offensive line is really looking shaky. I'm not really sure how Latavius Murray scored over 150 yards and a touchdown. I guess it was the volume of carries he got. Did you guys see Murray? Does he look like a fresh, newborn power running back? Is he the guy now?
No. He has these big games, but you can't count on him week in and week out.
And I'm pretty sure, and I'd have to double check it, but I think I heard this earlier, that the Cardinals are last place against the run.
Yeah.
So that puts some of it. That gives you an explanation for some of it.
If Cook is out again, and the Cook thing has been ongoing. He's questionable. They're saying, "Oh, you might start," then he doesn't. He doesn't play at all. So I mean, if Murray's out there on waivers, I think you got to get him, even if he's not consistent and reliable. He's still a guy. Like you were talking about Peyton Barber. I think I'd rather have Latavius Murray than Peyton Barber in a starting spot with all these buys coming up.
I for sure would like Murray. But the only thing to look out for there is that Peyton Barber's already had his bye, where the Vikings have theirs in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Christian Kirk on the Cardinals side, actually putting together a couple of games here. Last week was the one hit, but got the touchdown. More of a PPR week for him this week. Larry Fitz still doesn't look 100%, but we mentioned RSJ last week as being able to attack that weak Vikings middle of the field. So I would say keep starting your tight ends against the Vikings. Now they got the Jets, the Saints, then they're on bye, Lions and Bears.
Are you guys excited for David Johnson on Thursday night? Going against the Broncos. The last 3 running backs to go against the Broncos, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Crowell, and Todd Gurley, have all gone for over 200 yards.
I don't want to spoil it, but I think David Johnson's still my sell high player.
I don't know if he'll break 100.
I think he becomes the sell high player after playing the Broncos.
Do you think he's going to excel on the Broncos?
I think he's going to have a phenomenal game on Thursday night. I'm not going to say 200 yards because that's ridiculous. But I think he will get you up over 100 all-purpose yards.
Well, so look, his usage percentage is up. He's gone from game 1 at 67% of the snaps to game 6 of almost 95% of the snaps. The problem is the quality snaps he gets is really low. They just don't know how to use them. He runs up the gut. Like, when was the last time you saw him catch a screen?
Yeah, that's his bread and butter. He's not a run up the gut kind of guy. Like he's a sharp cutter, a quick cutter. He's better on the screen pass. He's better on the edge. So yeah, I don't know if I agree with the Broncos take. That's a little hot. It's a warm take. I wouldn't say it's a hot take, but
well, the whole world will be watching on Thursday night, and we'll find out because it's the only game in town on Thursday night.
Is it? That's all there is. Nothing else.
That's all there is.
Okay.
I mean, you can watch. You can either watch the Broncos and the Cardinals, or you can watch like Grey's Anatomy. But I mean, give me the Broncos all day long. Give me that game.
Or baseball.
Yeah, there's baseball.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching baseball.
No.
If the Red Sox ain't playing, nobody's watching.
Nope. Speaking of the Jets, we mentioned them a little bit in terms of matchups for their tight ends, but they played a game against the Colts. Now, I think a lot of it was the Colts playing really poorly because Andrew Luck's skill players have just been letting him down. Dropped City in Indianapolis. Mack and Ryan Grant both had costly turnovers. Hines dropped a touchdown. Turbin lost a fumble. And the Jets took advantage of this. But I want to talk about the Jets' offense because Darnold look again like he's playing a more aggressive style. The check down, not nearly as much as it was in the beginning of the season. He's pushing the ball downfield. Now, the benefit of that was Jermaine Kearse, Terrell Pryor, Quincy Enunwa, unfortunately now injured. He might miss a couple of weeks with a high ankle sprain. And Robbie Anderson got that long touchdown target again, but he overthrew him. How do you overthrow Robbie Anderson? I don't understand that.
You're trying too hard.
Somebody's not trying hard enough, Robbie Anderson. Run a little bit faster. Come on. You could have caught that one. Kearse is probably going to be the guy you would look at on waivers, I'm thinking.
I mean, listen, if Enunwa's out, there's going to be targets to go around because they love targeting Enunwa in that offense. He is their wide receiver 1 in that offense. So if he's not playing, yeah, Kearse is going to see some more targets. Kearse was effective last year when Robbie Anderson wasn't there. He had some very fantasy relevant games last year. So I think it's one of those things where if one of the top 2 wide receivers isn't there, Kearse is the next man up because they're not talented enough to support 3 wide receivers.
Well, an interesting thing that you can notice if you actually watch them is that when Kearse came back, they pushed Enunwa back to the outside. and that's what's been the last 2 weeks. He's played on the outside instead of in the slot. They put Kirk in the slot, and Sam Darnold's targeting. It looks like he's targeting his slot wide receiver more than pretty much anybody else. Because again, this week Kirk's 9 for 94, whereas Enunwa has 1 for 9.
But with Enunwa missing, do you think Kirk will stay in that slot, or will they move him outside?
So I'd love to say that they put Terrell Pryor on the outside and leave Kirk at the slot where he's playing well, but I would have loved to see Enunwa stay at the slot and Kirk play on the outside because Enunwa was playing so well. So it's hard to tell that a lot of odd coaching choices this year in the NFL.
Yeah,
it seems like all of us armchair experts see these things and their own coaches don't.
But if Kirk stays in the slot against the Vikings, he makes an interesting possible start at a flex. He could have a big day. I would almost kind of feel good starting Robbie Anderson next week too.
Well, and that secondary hasn't been as good as advertised for sure.
No, and
coming into the year, we thought they'd be a lot better than they actually have been playing.
And they just had, I think it was a rookie quarterback just tore his ACL this week as well. So they're a little hurt, and I might roll Anderson out there in some of these bye weeks. He might be like a Vikings. Maybe I'll start him against the Bills, possibly. He could be a boomer bust kind of guy. Marlon Mack finally back in the mix. Pretty good game. I mean, he looked okay, right? Almost scored twice. But is this a guy now that, I mean, you're putting him in there now, right? As long as he's healthy, you can put him in.
Yeah, so I'm a big Mac believer. I've got him in just an ungodly amount of leagues, and I've been holding him, and one of the reasons why I've been holding him is because we've seen what they had in that backfield. Nyheim Hines is a great pass-catching back, but he's not a prototypical between-the-tackles type running back. Mac is, and he's explosive at times. He can break a long one very, very easily. Looking at him first game back, I was tempered with expectations with him. I wouldn't expect him to have almost 100 all-purpose yards, but he was just a few yards shy of it. I want the lead running back in an Andrew Luck-led offense, and that is Marlon Mack. And I think he's going to get better as the season goes along, and I think as T.Y. Hilton, if he comes back and is healthy, I think that's just going to help open things up even more for Mac.
They really need him because Luck is playing at a level and the rest of the team is not playing at the same level. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. They need to get on the same page because Luck is ready to play a great season. I mean, look at his stat line.
He's throwing the ball 40 to 50 times a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And his best weapon is not there. I actually am kind of concerned that when Hilton gets back, that offense is going to be probably one of the most powerful offenses in the league, just due to the lack of volume of how much they're throwing the ball.
So on a completely separate topic, and because we are forced to talk about the Jets, I need some listeners to help me figure this out. Does Sam Darnold look more like Jimmy Neutron or Syndrome from The Incredibles? I'm
going to go Syndrome.
I'm an adult. I don't watch cartoons. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've got kids. I've watched them. I'm going Syndrome.
Okay, guys. So if you're listening, you can
tweet us at Sleeper Wire Show.
Yeah, just let me know whether you think he looks more like Syndrome or Jimmy Neutron.
Okay. All right.
If you're going to force me to talk about the Jets, I'm going to figure out something to make fun of Sam Darnold about.
Fair enough. Okay. It's out there on the Twitter. We'll let you know. We'll at Sam Darnold when we figure it out after the voting is done.
Maybe that can become a thing.
Maybe we can get him on the show. Hey, Sam, who do you think you look like?
Maybe he can get a nickname that he didn't come up with himself.
So unoriginal.
I'm just saying. You can't make up your own nickname, George. I'm not calling you what you think you should be called yet.
Showtime.
Nope, not saying it. Not saying it.
Cut it out.
Nickname's got to be organic and from somebody else. Texans and the Bills. Boy, the Texans are really just falling backwards into wins these days. And Deshaun Watson got sacked 7 times. So after he got his butt kicked and bruised and ribs and lungs and all banged up with the Cowboys last week, they didn't protect him. Why bother? Let him get sacked 7 times and turn the ball over a bunch of times. This is one of those quarterbacks, along with Jared Goff, that just had surprisingly bad weeks. I mean, they've had good weeks, but you think their floor is at least 10 points. They didn't even get you that. So I don't know what to do with Watson. I don't know what to do with the Texans. Foreman, we expected him to come back from the pup, but they're saying he maybe won't be activated. And I don't even know if Devonta Foreman will help this offense. I'm really worried if I'm a Houston Texans skills position owner. I mean, I know I got to start the guys, but I don't know. Coming up, Jags, Dolphins, Broncos, and then the Redskins. These are not exactly easy defenses to solve, and they couldn't put up more than 20 points against the Bills.
Yeah, so outside of Hopkins, I'm not sure. So Kiki QT had a bad week this week, but I don't know. He still seems to find his way to get open over the last couple weeks, so maybe you can put him in flex. Fuller, I guess, if healthy, but Hopkins is the only must-start on that offense for me.
Yeah, even Deshaun Watson for me is not a must-start.
The thing is, he will, buoy his stats a little bit with the rushing. And he had been, despite the play, getting stats. It wasn't pretty, but he was getting stats. It just, I'm really concerned about the way his offensive line is just letting him get pounded, and he may not make it through the whole season. So if you're a Watson guy and you drafted him, early in your draft, it might be, start looking at a backup quarterback just in case. We don't always say carry two quarterbacks on your roster, but he's one that might not make it through the season. You want to have somebody else. The Bills, though, I don't know. What was this thing? I read about this, but I didn't see it. Is it Kelvin Benjamin wasn't running routes for Josh Allen before the game or something?
Yeah, Allen wanted to practice with Benjamin, and Benjamin's like, no, I'm eating donuts. Leave me alone.
He wanted to have a catch? He wouldn't have a catch with his quarterback?
No, he didn't want to make Allen look bad even before the game.
What a dick.
You can't hit me. I'll be wide open. Let's not make you look bad.
So we all knew coming into this season that Josh Allen was a bad quarterback. Sorry, Mike, but he's just a bad quarterback, okay? And Kelvin Benjamin is just a bad wide receiver.
He's a bad teammate.
It's just a bad team. They've locked into a couple of wins. The one that really sticks out that's surprising was the win over the Vikings, how they just manhandled them. But this overall from top to bottom is just a bad team.
Redskins and Panthers, talk about a team that doesn't look ready to play. The Panthers, 2 weeks in a row now, just haven't looked sharp. They got the last second field goal, I should say, to save them against the Giants. Didn't have such luck this week. People are going to be talking about Torrey Smith, who caught all his catches for 43 and a touch. But DJ Moore, whoops, we were high on him last week, weren't we? 2 fumbles, very costly fumbles, might have cost them the game. But Torrey Smith, in a deeper league, is he somebody you might look at just as being part of that offense? Because it didn't look like Olsen was really, he targeted, but didn't catch a lot.
No.
Nope.
No, I don't really want a whole lot of any of that offense.
Devin Funchess, he's a flex. I'm comfortable flexing him, but I'm not rolling out Torrey Smith or DJ Moore. I want nothing to do with either one of them. I don't want them on my team. I don't even want to see them on waivers because I don't want to look at them, period.
Right.
Well, so listen, the next 2 weeks, Eagles, Ravens, you probably want to sit as many of them that's not named McCaffrey or Cam Newton as possible. But then following that, they have the Bucks and the Steelers. So, better times are coming.
Vernon Davis, though, is he the tight end to own now? What's going on with Jordan Reed? He's just not seeing a lot of production from his targets.
I think the Panthers looked at what the Redskins had coming into this game, and I think they concentrated on trying to take Jordan Reed out of the game. And I think they were successful in doing that.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, the Redskins, I thought they played a pretty good game all around, both sides of the ball. Pretty good game. They play the Cowboys, the on-fire Cowboys, coming up next. But they've got a pretty fun schedule coming up. The Redskins, actually, I think they have a good football watching schedule coming up with the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Falcons and the Bucks. So keep an eye on them as a team that I think is sort of middle of the road. I don't know. Steelers and Bengals, though. This was a hell of a game. So Tyler Boyd was the guy. I think he scored just about as many yards as A.J. Green, or very close to it, at least receptions-wise. But he got the 2 touchdowns. I think people are going to be looking at Uzomah.
Yep. Yeah, no Tyler Croft, no Tyler Eifert. The 2 Tylers are done. Roll out Uzomah.
And then going back to Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, Hayden was covering A.J. Green pretty much all game. He did the nasty thing to Julio Jones for most of the game, and then he turned around and did it to A.J. Green, which kind of left Tyler Boyd able to do his thing, 7 for 9 and 2 touchdowns. So,
yeah, I mean, Tyler Boyd's been playing phenomenal this year. A lot of people wrote him off because he had 2, mediocre years, but he was a highly, if I'm not mistaken, he was a highly drafted player coming out of college, and he's having a third-year breakout, which should not surprise anybody. We see a lot of third-year breakouts with the wide receivers.
Yeah, now upcoming schedule, man. They got the Chiefs, and then they got the Bucks, and then they got a week off, then the Saints. So they could that's
sweet.
Roll out all the Cincy wide receivers for the next couple of weeks. The Steelers side, all right, so Connor played great, had a nice game. If/when Le'Veon Bell comes back, if/when he plays, Connor's still getting used, right? I mean, I think he's earned it.
So I don't know if it's about earned it or if they want to ruin Connor for next year. Because, a couple years ago when Le'Veon Bell was out for the first 4 weeks, his running back replacement looked pretty good, and you thought maybe going forward they'd keep using him, and then it was Bell all the time. So I don't know. I guess it depends on if they're still in the hunt. If there's, then maybe they keep using the hot hand. But Bell is going to come back. He is not going to miss this year of eligibility, so he'll be back by week 10.
If and when Bell comes back, Connor goes right to the bench.
Wow.
We've seen it too many times in Mike Tomlin's offense that it doesn't matter who the running back is or who has the hot hand at the moment. If Le'Veon Bell comes back, it's his job and his job alone.
Do you think James Conner makes the jump to professional wrestling like D'Angelo did?
Maybe when his career's over, because listen, coming back next year, James Conner is going to be the running back in this offense.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So I mean, when is it? Career's over, maybe. Listen, WWE, they pay great money.
Didn't Williams go to Impact? I thought he
went to TNA.
Yeah, TNA. All right. Yeah, he couldn't make it to the through NXT. Not yet. Vance McDonald. I'd like to see Vance McDonald in the ring. He did that thing again where he catches the ball and he just blows through people. And Jason, you mentioned this last week. Is he's one of those guys where like you start him and he doesn't do anything, and then you dump him and he plays well, and then you pick him up and you start him and he doesn't do anything. So he's got the week off. Do you think he has a good week against the Browns? No?
No, Pittsburgh uses different tight ends in different weeks, and you never know which one it's going to be. I do know that Chris Conley saw that and dove under the table instinctively.
Shield his eyes, yeah.
He's got that Vance McDonald PTSD.
Yeah, that's what
No, Chris Conte said, finally, don't forget about the stiff arm.
No, they won't.
Probably not.
That's going to be on highlight reels forever.
I'd rather go, if I was going to grab a tight end from either of these two teams, I'd grab the one from Cincinnati. I feel like he's got more of a safe floor. Cowboys and Jaguars. I was excited for Osweiler Trubisky. I almost completely forgot about Prescott versus Bortles. Another heavyweight battle between two excellent quarterbacks. So what happened with this game? I don't understand how the Jaguars gave up 40 points. What the hell?
Dude, this one goes down under like the same as the Bills versus the Vikings. And listen, I think we're starting to see the Jaguars just aren't very good. Everybody thought they beat the Patriots a couple weeks back, and they were destined for the Super Bowl. And since then, they laid a stinker against the Titans. They're just not a great team, especially offensively. And I think that defense is just getting exhausted.
What's wrong with the offense, though? Can you point to anything that's wrong?
I can.
He's the quarterback.
He's the quarterback. He was highly drafted. He came from UCF. I believe they spent the 3rd overall pick on him. His name is Blake Bortles.
Is that it, though? I mean, Fournette's missing as well. I don't think defensive coordinators are particularly scared of TJ Yeldon. I mean, he's never really been somebody to pay a lot of attention to, but is that it? Is it all Bortles?
I don't think they're particularly scared of Fournette either, to be honest. I think Fournette is a good running back. He's an above average running back, but he's not on the level of those upper echelon running backs that, keep defensive coordinators awake at night. That's just not Leonard Fournette.
Well, and can we also say that like Keelan Cole and Dede Westbrook and Moncrief and whoever else they brought in, like we weren't thinking these guys were going to set the world on fire in the offseason. We were kind of wondering what they were doing letting Allen Robinson go. They didn't really address it all that much. And
well, they drafted DJ Chark, but he's a rookie. He's a good rookie, but he's going to take time to get used to the league and to live up to his potential. He's got potential. I like him as a wide receiver, but I think he's another year or two away from having that significant impact that Allen Robinson would have had right away.
So we're talking about what's wrong with the Jaguars. Let's go through the checklist. Quarterback, mediocre to poor, check. Wide receivers, mediocre to poor, check. Star running back hurt, check. Backup running back, mediocre at best. Like, what's wrong with the Jaguars? Their offense.
So I don't think TJ Yeldon's mediocre at best. I think he's a good running back, but I also think that the Jaguars have issues with their offensive line.
So this is a team that, for what we expected in the offseason, is definitely trending down. Like, it's a team to get away from, if you can at this point. The Cowboys, with this win, the illusion is that it's a team trending up. Is it an illusion, or is it reality?
Well,
it's an illusion.
Their next 4 games, Redskins, that's a winnable game in a division. Then they have a bye. Titans, that's a winnable game. Eagles, probably the worst game they've got. And then the Falcons, that's a winnable game. So
all 3 games are on the road.
Yeah, I see it and I go, it could be a team trending up.
Beasley is going to be the waiver wire target, though. Getting him or not getting him?
No, we discussed Beasley a few shows ago. Yeah. He's one of those guys, super inconsistent. Yes, he went out and had a phenomenal game, 9 for 101 and 2 touchdowns. He won't do it again this year. He's just not going to do it again this year.
Well, listen, I probably so we're going to get into our waiver wire ads at the end of the show, and we're going to say we want this guy and we want this guy and we want the. None of those guys are going to be consistent. If they were consistent, they wouldn't be on the waiver wire now. So yeah, I'd take a shot at Beasley. Because again, they do play the Falcons, which is a decent matchup.
I'm not rushing out there right now to get Beasley, who plays the Falcons in 5 weeks.
See,
the Redskins is not good.
I don't think Beasley's a guy you'd have to put a waiver claim in for, though. He might be available after waivers clear, actually.
Right. Probably. Okay, for sure. Then don't grab him on the waiver, but if he's available after, I pick him up.
Yeah. I might grab him if I was like a Jaguars wide receiver owner. If they're
well, yeah, if you're holding on to Keelan Cole, hoping for sure, I would take Beasley today over Keelan Cole.
They could both. They have similar floor, and they both have upside. So it's like I don't know. It's a battle now between. I'm looking at quarterback quality and matchup, and I think I might lean a little bit more towards the Cowboys as they seem to be playing better, and their defense is keeping them in games. So I could see that. We'll get to that waiver talk in a little bit. We got to talk about the Rams and the Broncos. This was all about the LA team going to 25-degree weather, snowing conditions. We all knew it was going to be a running game for Todd Gurley, but the thing I think people are going to look at is Cooper Kupp. A brutal tackle, and apparently the news is sprained MCL, I believe, so he may miss some time. So you're not dropping Cooper Kupp. He's not out for the season, but he's going to be on your bench for a little bit. Robert Woods is probably owned. Otherwise, he'd be the number 1 waiver target this week. I forget who's the third guy. Who's the 4th in the depth chart for the for the Rams?
Is it Josh Reynolds?
Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds. That's it.
Yes, Josh Reynolds.
So he had 1 reception for -2 yards.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that he's the guy to go out and grab.
The reason I mention it is because it's a high-powered offense. And they're going to put up points. And they play some pretty easy matchups coming up here. So it's one of those teams that's, they're undefeated. They're good. You kind of want a piece of them. It's like when we talk about the Packers wide receiver depth. And we're like, okay, well, you're missing 2 guys. Go and grab these guys you never heard of. The Rams, maybe, this is another maybe after waivers clear, you look at Josh Reynolds, maybe.
If you have a deep bench and have a spot, and I don't think that's the case because we're heading into all the bye weeks, but if you have a deep bench and a spot, yeah, go grab him and hope if he jumps on fire this upcoming week, you've grabbed him before you have to pick him up on waivers.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, he would be a pickup and stash for me. I'm not rushing out to get him. It's not somebody I would spend a waiver claim on. But if he's available after waiver claims, and listen, I'll even go as far as saying if I'm holding one of those Jaguars wide receivers, I would contemplate dropping them for Josh Reynolds.
I think I might do the same if I was holding on to a Titans wide receiver at this point.
Any of them.
Yeah. So we got more garbage time goodness from Case Keenum, who continues to be bad, mostly checkdowns again. Emmanuel Sanders had a bit of a weird penalty. Did you guys see that one?
He it looked like he had a touchdown, and he started waving his finger in the face of the guy that was covering him. And they threw a flag on him for unsportsmanlike conduct, and then when he went back and reviewed the play, he was down at the 1. So instead of it being a touchdown, it ended up being a field goal.
Yeah. Get control of yourself, Emmanuel Sanders. People are going to be a little concerned about the rushing usage this week with Phillip Lindsay only getting 4 carries when he had seemed to be the more dynamic of the two. But that could have been defense, could have been game flow, it could have been a lot of things. They got most of their points in garbage time, so it wasn't like they were real competitive in this game. And they did lose Ronald Leary to an Achilles injury, so that's kind of a big hit. Excuse me, for that Denver offensive line. You guys worried about Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay? I mean, the team doesn't look all that good, to be honest.
Well, yeah, you have to be worried about them. Although they do play the Cardinals next week. The Cardinals not very good against the run. So they're not very good against the run. So, yeah, I mean, you think maybe one of these two guys could have a good game, but at this point, it's like spin the wheel and figure out which one.
All right, Ravens and Titans. As I said, I'm dumping Titans by the boatload as I can. I've already gotten rid of Derrick Henry, and he proved to be a good decision because he didn't even break 5 points this week. But the Ravens, 11 sacks. If that was, I don't know if that was the record or they tied the record. They broke the record for most sacks they've ever done in a game. But, geez, they had more sacks than Tennessee had first downs. This Tennessee offense is done. It's broken. I don't know if there's any fantasy value here at all for the rest of the year.
There's none.
Yeah, I think
Jason, what's your opinion on Corey Davis at this point in the season? Because I know you were really high on him coming in.
I have been for the last couple of weeks, but man, you're right, it's broke. And they're not even one of the teams that gets lucky to play some of the really bad defenses. Like, they got the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Pats, and the Colts. Yeah. And listen, you can say the Pats and the Colts at the back end of that, but I wouldn't be happy to play any of my Titans against the Pat and the Colts.
We mentioned it last week too. We said that Taylor Lewan hurt his foot. I said that they may be exposed even more, and they were this week. He really struggled this week. He's clearly hurt, and I think that's where a lot of those sacks came from. It just was bad, really, really bad. Corey Davis, I want to apologize to the person who emailed us and asked Corey Davis or Mohamed Sanu, because that was a tough one. My gut said Sanu, rankings said Davis, skills, obviously Davis, and bad call. Bad call for us to say Davis over Sanu this week.
So when you are sacked more than your quarterback has completions, you know there's an issue.
There was one thing too, and I like to look at this in terms of like how a team is performing is their third down conversion, and the Titans were 1 for 10 this week on third down. There are teams, I can't remember the other one I mentioned here in the notes. I knew I had.
It has to be the Falcons because they converted on every third down, it seems like.
Yeah, it seemed like it was, like Jason said earlier, it was always third and first.
Yeah, no, the Falcons converted, and it was the Eagles converted 9 of their 16 third downs. So when you see that as a team, you see that little clue that team is working well together. They're moving the ball, they're on the same page. When you see a team that's not converting their third downs, maybe good for your kicker if you have the kicker on that team, but that team is clearly hurting offensively. Alex Collins scored 2 touchdowns. So if you held on to him, cool. If you traded him away, whatever. He still didn't get you a lot of yards. This game, so we mentioned Snead last week as a guy who's pretty safe in PPR. Crabtree really emerged this week, and I was excited to see that because the touchdowns weren't there, but the targets were. So are you guys comfortable starting Crabtree again? Because I know we were kind of like on the fence about him. He was getting looks, but he wasn't getting a lot of – he wasn't getting any touchdowns, to be honest.
I feel more comfortable starting Crabtree than I do Willie Snead. I still think John Brown's the number one in this receiver. Crabtree's the 2. Snead's the 3.
Well, see, so I see Crabtree as the possession. He's not catching the touchdowns like he did in Oakland, but he's the possession receiver. I believe he's getting the most targets. John Brown's the over-the-top guy, so he's going to get you long receptions and touchdowns when they throw deep. But I like Crabtree, and again, I'll tip the hat a little bit, but he's a sell high for me.
Really? Well, I'm buying because we got another email question from somebody who was talking about what do I do with Crabtree. I said hang on to him. I know the touchdowns aren't there yet, but if you look at their end-of-season schedule, it goes Raiders, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, and the Chargers and the Browns to close out. But by that point, you're in the fantasy playoffs. But some of those last 5 out of 6 of those last games look really tasty for Crabtree to have some big point games. So if I'm buying him. He might be a little high, but I think I'm getting him and stashing him for later.
Tasty Crabtree. I like the play on words there.
Tasty Crabtree. Yeah, there you go. The Patriots and the Chiefs, nobody really cared about this game because we got those quarterback matchups from before. So they're like, Brady, Mahomes, whatever. Who cares? But nobody has an answer for Patrick Mahomes. This guy started slow, turned it on after intermission. So with the Patriots, I think they pretty much game plan to try to take Kelsey out of this game. But you had your other skill players just going off. I don't know if there's anything to talk about in this game, really. Like, you kind of expected everybody to do what they did.
There's Gordon.
Stood out?
We can talk about Gordon.
Let's talk about Josh Gordon. Wouldn't be a show without Josh Gordon talk.
I just want to point out it wasn't me who brought it up.
No, so listen, Gordon, you are encouraged a bit for Josh Gordon's. But with everything going for him in this game, and he had the highest percentage, his snap count went up this game from 18 snaps to something like 64 snaps. He went up to 80-something% of the snap count. So you're excited because he's on the field more. He got pass interfered down at the end zone. So that could have, I guess, been a touchdown. And you still only ended up with 5 for 42 against one of the league's worst defenses.
Yes, but what you're encouraged about is he's seen the most targets of anybody on the Patriots. So Brady was definitely looking his way. He has Brady's eye.
So he has, and that's what you can, if you're a Gordon lover, you can say, well, he had the most opportunity. His percentage has gone up. He got targeted a lot. And then if you're a Gordon hater, you can say, well, yeah, okay, he took all of that against an awful defense and went 5 for 42.
Yep, and if he wasn't interfered in the end zone and he comes down with a touchdown, it's not even a discussion.
And if my grandma had nuts, she'd be my grandpa.
But
that's not necessarily true this day and age.
But who did Brady tongue kiss after the game? It was certainly Julian Edelman and not Josh Gordon, right?
I think he tongue kissed the kicker.
Gross.
Man, he had like a 4-way kiss action and then went back to his son.
It's like Girls Gone Wild or something like that. That's disgusting. So the Packers and the 49ers play Monday night. We're recording Monday night, so we'll see what happens with that game. The Lions and Saints were on bye this week, but they're back to full strength and ready to go in Week 7. So we'll talk about them after Week 7. All right, let's move on to the waiver wire targets. Guys, if we didn't chat about anybody who you like on the waiver wire, now is the time to speak your mind. Last few weeks, I want to give you guys credit. You guys have been really nailing some names down the past couple of weeks of guys that have emerged. We talked about Taylor Gabriel, Ito Smith, Godwin, Sanu, Brait. We talked about Mack. I mean, last week alone, we called out a couple of names that did well this week. The tight end from Cincinnati, Uzoma. Valdez-Scantling maybe will play tonight. We'll see what he does. Taylor Gabriel, again. Juszczyk, we'll see what he does tonight. Paul Richardson, we mentioned him last week. He had a touchdown this week. So you guys have got it going on. You're nailing these guys. So give me some guys this week. Who do we like on the waiver wire if we haven't chatted about them already?
So the first one I'm going to go with is Josh Reynolds. Like I said, if Cooper Kupp is out, he will fill in as that third wide receiver in that offense. And we've seen that Goff can support 3 wide receivers. So I do like Josh Reynolds. He's only owned in 0.4% of ESPN standard leagues. Another one I'll go with is Frank Gore. He's only 11% owned, which drives me crazy. He's the best running back in Miami. There's no reason Frank Gore should not be owned, and you can flex him every single week. He's coming off a game where he just had a first 100-yard game this season for Miami.
So I'm going to throw one out that I talked about a couple weeks ago. It was right before his bye, though. I'm going to say A.Humphries with the Bucks. It's one guy we didn't mention. I think he had 3 receptions, somewhere around 80-something yards. With Jameis Winston back, they love little bubble screens to A.Humphries. They do it multiple times a game. They threw him a pass over the middle this week, and it got somewhere around 50-some-odd yards. A.Humphries is a sneaky play. And you took Frank Gore from me, so that's all I got.
Right. Another one I'll give you, Christian Kirk, 14% owned. He's looking like the best wide receiver in Arizona. If you can, yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Larry Legend, he's a legend for a reason. But Christian Kirk is, 6 of 7 last week. He looks to be the wide receiver you want in that offense.
Yeah, and so we talked a little bit about him, so I didn't mention him, but his schedule going forward is not that bad either. The Broncos, the Niners, he's got a bye week, then the Chiefs and the Raiders. So that is a very favorable schedule coming up for Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I kind of put a flag in him when I kind of knew Rosen was going to eventually take over, and I liked Kirk more with Rosen than Bradford. And yeah, it's good to see that guy kind of improving slowly. So there's potential there.
How's about a quarterback? They're a dime a dozen, but if you're a Mariota owner, Mitch Trubisky, go get him. He's only 32% owned. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's got 11 touchdowns on the year. He's got a solid defense that's not going to put him in bad positions. He's somebody I would look to go out and add, and you can play matchups with him, definitely.
Hello, Brock Osweiler?
No, I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm not going to tell you to go pick up Brock Osweiler.
Well, and the problem
you're not ready to win. Then you're not ready to win your fantasy matchups. So
the problem with Brock is you don't know how many games he's actually going to play, and I don't trust him next week.
I'll give you one more. I talked about him earlier, Marlon Mack. He's only owned in 25% of ESPN leagues. Go out and get Marlon Mack. He's the starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts. There's no reason that guy should not be owned.
Yeah, and when we do these, I keep forgetting because I have Mac down here because of his percentage owned. But when we do these, I keep forgetting that I'm the only one playing against all sleeper wire guys. Yeah. So guys like Mac are owned,
right?
But some of you guys out there aren't playing against the caliber of a Dirty Jobs, and Marlon Mack may still be there.
Yeah, in our league, Jamal Charles got picked up because our running back waivers are so thin. People are taking flyers on. I think Josh Reynolds got picked up 2 weeks ago or a week ago. So yeah, there are guys out there. I didn't even realize Mack was so low owned. That's shocking to me. He should be on a roster.
I'll give you another quarterback with the buys we got coming up. We're starting to hit the Chief season for buys.
Yep.
You could do a lot worse out there than Baker Mayfield. He's thrown the ball 40 passes in each of his 3 starts.
Yeah, not super accurate, but he's putting the ball in the air. So
yeah, the volume's there. The schedule that he's got coming up, as Jason pointed out earlier, Buccaneers, Steelers, Chiefs, and Falcons. That's not exactly Murderous row. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Of defenses to play against.
Yeah, speaking of the Browns, if Duke Johnson or Chubb are available on your waivers, they make decent ads too. The coach came out and said we're going to get more work for Chubb. He's been saying that before. We'll see if it happens. I still think late season that guy could really emerge in a late season. It's a cold environment in Cleveland. Like they may really use him. And Duke Johnson finally saw a week where he got a little bit of usage on both sides of passing and rushing. And he really looks explosive. I mean, he's a very skilled player, so it's just a matter of them continuing to get him into the workflow. And if they still struggle with that accuracy of Baker, or if he's banged up, Landry and Callaway are struggling with catches, Johnson may see an uptick in usage, so he might be a decent one to add too.
If you got Matt Bryant as your kicker, he's been pretty solid for you most of the year. Just know that he's going to miss the next game, so you may want to start scouring your waiver wire for a kicker. I know they're probably very thin at the kicker position on your waiver wires, but if you've been rolling with Matt Bryant like I have in a couple of leagues, you're going to have to go scour the waiver wire for a kicker.
You're getting carried away, bud.
No, you're getting carried away. No kicker talk on this show. What are you talking about?
I was going to say, have we fallen so far we're talking about kickers?
Yeah.
Listen, we're here for the people. There are people who play in a lot of leagues with kickers. Matt Bryant is one of the top kickers in the league, so that affects their team. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Tight end-wise, you may look on your waiver wire. There may be some Evan Ingram available because people might have dropped him thinking he was going to be out more than just a week or two because initial prognosis.
OJ Howard's another one. He was expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks, and
he's already back.
He's already back. So if he's still on your waiver wire, go pick him up.
Trade time. Who are we looking to trade? This week, we're going to talk about, like we do every week, who you selling high, who you buying low. I want to hear from Jason first because he's got some good ideas for trades.
So, 2 guys I'm looking to sell high. One is DJ. I don't think it gets much better for him, but he keeps scoring touchdowns, and he's got the name value. So if you can turn him into a Kamara, which is a buy low, go do it right away. Tariq Cohen. He's had 2 really good games, and I'm not saying he won't continue. Like I said, he looks like the most dynamic running back on that team, but he's got you a ton of points the last 2 weeks he's played. You can turn that into a more solid, package something up, get you a Joe Mixon, right? Sell the high last 2 games and get you somebody like Joe Mixon. Throw in a wide receiver, one of these waiver wire guys that goes off 1 week, right? That we talked about early. My buy lows this week, Odell Beckham Jr., with as much bad press as he's had, and he had a bad game and it's a bad team, go pick him up because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? He's going to get the ball. He's going to get force-fed the ball in these upcoming weeks. So I like the idea of buying Odell, and I like the idea of buying Jarvis Landry because their schedule, when we talked about it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a couple times now. Jarvis Landry's too good of a wide receiver to be playing, to get as little targets, as little receptions. He's still getting the targets as he is. And then with this schedule coming up, I love Jarvis Landry going forward.
So I'm going to go the exact opposite as Jason.
Of course you are.
Of course. I'm selling Odell Beckham Jr. That was the only one that really I would go against him on. I'm not sold with Eli Manning. We've seen what happens when quarterbacks just fall off the cliff. Yes, Odell Beckham is talented. Yes, he is the best thing, probably one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. But if I can get a nice package for him that it's going to be more consistent week in and week out, and I don't have to deal with the headaches and everything else that an Odell Beckham Jr. owner has to deal with, I'm taking it. I own him in a league. I'm actually looking to trade him this week. I don't want him on my team no more. I'm super frustrated with him. So if you're buying, I'm selling. Unfortunately, we're not in the same league, but we could make a deal for Odell.
The problem with that is now you're selling low.
I don't think you are. One bad game doesn't constitute you selling low. You're going to get value for Odell Beckham with the name value alone. If I can get 2 solid players in return for him to help my team, I will. The guy I'm trying to go out and buy is Matt Breida from San Francisco. He was leading the league in rushing at one point. I still believe he's in the top 10 in rushing yards. He's somebody I'm looking to buy. I could probably get him cheap. He's not a big name, but he's been effective all year. So that's the guy that I'm looking to go out, and I'm trying to get as much of Matt Breida as I can.
You know what? I might try to buy Brandon Cooks if I didn't own him. The concussion last week, low score. Didn't play. I mean, he played okay, but I think he got schemed out of this game this week. I still believe he's the number one wide receiver on that team, and that team is explosive. So if the Cooks owner is looking for something, I don't know, you might be able to get him. Can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. But the good thing is, guys, if we didn't cover anybody that you're looking to trade, or we didn't talk about any waiver guys that you want to talk about, you can always reach us anytime. We are the most accessible fantasy football podcast because we're always online. So you can reach us at sleeperwire.com. Go to the homepage, look for the free advice button, click on it, fill out the form, send us an email. We respond very quickly. You can reach us on the Fantasy Life app. Look for the Sleepwire channel. Also on the Sleeper app, look for the Sleepwire channel, and you can hit us up on there at BFTGO for George, at BFTGDRMIL for Jason, and at SW Steve on the Sleeper app. You can also find us on Twitter at Sleepwire Show, the Sleepwire Fantasy Football Club on Facebook group. And if we help you out at all with any of these calls, hit us up with a donation for our cause. Our buddy Rob's got chronic Lyme disease, trying to get treatments. It's expensive, and we do all this fantasy football stuff to help him out. So anything you can do to help, we'd really appreciate. Go to GoFundMe.com/RobJR. Make a donation if you like the show. And don't forget, tune in Wednesday night. It's the next show, live show, Mail Sack. You can call in, get your questions answered. Start at 8 o'clock.
What a great holidays! Merry Christmas! See you Wednesday!